Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be joining us. Welcome to the Purpose and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, Kelly R. Jackson. Let's just get right into it as we always do. It's time for our word for the weekend. One verse, Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 3. Nehemiah 6 and 3. New King James Version says it like this. So I sent messengers to them, saying, I am doing a great work, so that I cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? How does it read in the New Living Translation? So I replied by sending this message to them. I am engaged in a great work, so I can't come. Why should I stop working to come and meet with you? My brothers and my sisters, when you're engaged in what God called you to do, when you're engaged in your purpose, when you're walking in your call, know that if God called you to it, it is a great work. If it's in your purpose, if it's in line with what God created you to do, don't you ever let anybody minimize God's purpose in your life. If God has called you to do something, if God has ordained you to do something, no matter how man feels about it, no matter what they think is great or small, if it's ordained by God, it is a great work. Because God doesn't do anything that's less than. God doesn't do anything that's pointless. God doesn't do anything that doesn't mean anything. When God calls you to do something, it is a great work. One of the challenges that I knew that I would face in doing ministry the way that I do, in doing a church the way that we do for the kingdom, one of the challenges that I knew that I would face is I was doing something that was a little bit unconventional in a lot of ways. I was starting and I was building something out in the open. I was building it in a public space. We do so much in the way of virtual work. We do podcasts, we do videos, we do all types of things on social media. And one of the great challenges of doing things out in the open is that you're exposed. You're out in the elements, as it were. You're in a space where everybody can see. And quite honestly, especially with social media, everybody can give comment or critique or complain or whatever the case may be. And I want y'all to know, and again, this isn't a pity party for Pastor Jackson, but it is a daunting task to do things out in the open, especially in this day and age of Christianity being heavily scrutinized and heavily looked at with a microscope, if you will, heavily picked over and analyzed in this day and age where we have different factions and religions and things like that that are coming against the church. And by the way, if you read your Bible, this isn't anything new. This isn't brand new that the church is under attack. It's just a lot more visible these days with things like social media and the like. But the thing about it, y'all, is again, when God calls us to do this work, when God calls me to do this work, to do ministry out in the open, to do ministry exposed, uncovered, to do ministry in front of the world, even before I was able to even put on a world stage, because a lot of times when you're doing social media, you're literally are on a world stage. When God calls me to do something like this, even though I'm not great, even though I'm insignificant in the plan, and even though God could have gotten anybody to do this, and as evidence that he's done it before, it's still a great work. It is a great work, even though the person that's doing it, it's not about me, it's about him, and it's about the work that he's called me to do. It is, in fact, a great work. But we have to understand this, y'all. And again, all of you aren't ministers, but this still applies to you. We have to understand that when you're doing a great work, when God has called you to your purpose, when God has called you to do what you do and be what you are, there are going to be times, y'all, when you are met with opposition, when you are met with people who would like to criticize you and people who would like to stop you from doing what you're doing, simply because they don't understand it. It doesn't connect with them. It doesn't resonate with them. They simply want to stop you from doing what God has ordained for your life. And again, me doing ministry out in the open, me doing ministry where everybody can see it and everybody can comment on it and everybody can make this judgment or this accusation against what we are doing here in this ministry. It is a daunting task, and it does not require you to be soft in this. You need to have thick skin when you're doing this type of work, and you need to be able to handle this type of thing. And I can tell you this again, it's a challenge at times, but this is where, y'all, we have to go back to the work. You got to remember not just who called you, but how important the work is. So again, as I say to you, whatever God has called you to do, it is a great work. Now, it may seem insignificant to people who don't get it, but it is a great work. And when you're working for him, again, it's not insignificant. Somebody needs what you're doing. And so before we get so caught up in what's happening to us, before we get so caught up in the attack, before we get so caught up in people coming against us while we're simply trying to walk in our purpose and we ain't bothering nobody and we doing what we do, before we get caught up in that, don't you miss the assignment. Don't you miss the work that you are called to do. What do I mean when I say that? Again, it is a great work, so you have to stay focused on the work. You have to stay focused on the task at hand. You have to stay focused on the one who called you and ordained you for the assignment. Because I don't care what you're trying to do in this world. I don't care how much good you're trying to do in this world and how much it may benefit people and how much it may help people. I don't care how you have a good heart and all of those good things. No matter what you're trying to do, there's always going to be somebody somewhere to criticize. There's always going to be somebody who's not doing what you're doing, who haven't been exposed the way that you have been exposed, who have not been called to what you've been called to, that has a criticism of what you're doing. And I'm just a firm believer, y'all, as we get ready to hurry on to a close, I'm just a firm believer that if I'm called to a great work, I don't have time to criticize anybody else. I don't have time to watch what they're doing. I don't have time to look over their shoulder, because if I'm called to a great work, the moment that I stop doing my work and looking at you, I'm failing at what God has called me to do. Very quickly, I want to touch on this text very quickly, because we see in the book of Nehemiah, Nehemiah is charged with rebuilding the walls of the city. And Nehemiah has some people who are trying to stop him from doing the work. Can I help you a little bit further? He has some people that are trying to sabotage the great work that God has called him to do. They're trying to stop him from doing it. And if you read the text, they're really trying to harm him. But Nehemiah responds to them again, because he knows, by the way, that they're trying to do him harm. He understands that they don't mean him any good. He understands that they're simply just trying to stop the work. And so Nehemiah says, I can't stop doing the work. I can't come down to meet with you. I can't come down to talk with y'all because, number one, I know you don't mean me no good. And number two, I'm called to the work. And so the work has to continue. And so how does that translate to you and I as we get ready to get out of here on today? Anybody that's trying to stop you from doing what God called you to do, they don't mean you no good. They simply want to harm you. They simply want to sabotage the work. So this is where you and I, my brother and sister, we got to make sure that we understand our purpose, that we understand that we're part of God's plan, that we understand that God has called us for a specific time and a specific reason. And this is where you and I, my brother and my sisters, that we cannot stop doing the work. You're going to hear the criticism. You're going to hear the naysayers. You're going to hear the people, especially in what I'm doing, who speak because they don't agree with you. They don't believe like you do. And quite honestly, and y'all forgive me if this sounds rude, they don't have the good sense to just keep on scrolling. They don't have the good sense to keep on walking and say, I see you building that wall. That wall ain't for me, but I'm not going to stop you from doing what you do. They don't have the good sense to say, that ain't my thing. I don't believe in that clothing store. I don't believe in that music. I don't believe in that business. I don't believe in what they're doing, and it ain't for me. So let me just move on. No, some people want to stop you. Some people want to tear you down. Some people want to halt what you're trying to do, and you're simply just trying to walk in your God-given purpose. I advise you, my brother, my sister, to be like Nehemiah. You can say to them, I know you don't mean me no good, and the work must continue. I can't come off this wall because I'm called to the work. Yeah, I know you want to give me your opinion. I know you want to comment on my post. I know you want to say this and that about what I'm doing, but I ain't got time to engage. I don't have time to go back and forth with you, because the moment I start going back and forth with you, I am no longer doing the work. So I'm encouraging you, my brother and my sister, as you do the work, as you do what God has called you to do, as you do what God has ordained you to do, there's always going to be somebody with a note of criticism. There's always going to be somebody that tries to bring you down, that tries to discourage you instead of doing their work, by the way. I want you to keep your mind focused on the work. And while you keep your mind focused on the work, don't you forget who hired you. Don't forget who called you to the work. You don't work for your critics. You don't work for your naysayers. You don't work for them people that we call these days haters. You don't work for those people. You work for God. And the more attention and the more oxygen you give them, the less you can do your work. Don't let them be a distraction, and don't let them become a part of what you're doing. Don't even do it to prove anything to them. Just make sure that you continue to do the work, because that's what God called you to do. Stay in your lane. Stay on the wall. Ignore the criticism, because those that love you know how to correct you without trying to hurt you or harm you or tear you down. Ignore all of that and just tell them, I'm doing a great work. I don't have time to go back and forth with you. Let me continue on the work so that I can please the one who hired me. We went a little bit over. That's all the time that we got for Word for the Weekend. I pray that you all got something out of that. I hope you needed that. I needed that. So I pray that you got something out of that. Let me give you our tag very quickly, as we always do. If you'd like to keep up with us, the best way to do that, check us out at the ministry's website. That website, www.krjministries.org. Again, www.krjministries.org. If you'd like to purchase any of our written works, check us out at the publishing website, www.krjpublishing.com. Again, www.krjpublishing.com. Wherever you listen to this audio, wherever you listen to this podcast, we encourage you hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart Radio, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to this podcast, please hit that subscribe button so that you know when new episodes become available. If you're watching this video on the Kelly R. Jackson Ministries YouTube channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button there as well, so that you know when new episodes come up, our Monday morning discipleship videos or our Word for the Weekend videos. We would love to have you be a subscriber of our videos and our channels and all of those good things. Listen, very quickly, for those of you that like to sow into this ministry, you can do so by visiting www.krjministries.org/donate. Hit that donate tab, and that way you can donate into this ministry. You can sow into this ministry, even if you just sow something as little as $5. Whatever you give, we would definitely appreciate you for doing so. If you'd like to become a patron of this podcast, where you can get some exclusive content, you can visit www.patreon.com/Purpose and Beyond to check out the different levels of sponsorship that we offer. I would be remiss if I didn't invite you all to come to church with us on every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at For the Kingdom Christian Church, where I am the pastor. We stream our services every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on our Facebook page. Find us at For the Kingdom Christian Church, or search FTK Church. Or you can find us on our YouTube channel, search For the Kingdom Christian Church, or search at FTK Church, and you can find our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button there. Again, every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. If you're in the Detroit area, you'd like to come by in person, check out that Facebook page. You can find out where you can stop by in person. We would love to have you come and worship with us. That's all the time that we have for Word for the Weekend. I pray that you all were blessed by what we shared. I know we went a little bit long, but I believe it was necessary. So we pray that you all were blessed by what we shared. God bless you and God keep you is my prayer as always. And we'll see you all on next time. Be blessed.